Hi, I'm Pat Sullivan, owner of Seacoast Real Estate Group. We're the sponsor of Winthrop's Nicest Gardens contest. We're going to be visiting some of the gardens that are entered in this year's contest and talking to the gardeners and hopefully picking up a few tips. With me are Peggy Gilbert, whose garden we're in now. Although it's a beautiful garden, she's not eligible since she's a Seacoast associate. We also have Doris Kelly, Jan Stevens, Gina Murray, Linda Forrestal, Jeannie DeAngelis, and Dan Ashton. This year, in addition to our contest, we also have a special event planned. On Saturday, July 13th, from 9 to noon, we're going to be having a Winthrop in Bloom tour. It's a garden tour of 6 of the winners of last year's Nicest Gardens contest. The tickets are $4, $3 for seniors, and the proceeds are to benefit the Winthrop Beautification Committee. So if you have a garden that you'd like to enter in our contest, or you'd like to nominate a garden that you enjoy, or if you'd like tickets to the Winthrop in Bloom tour, give us a call at 846-1020. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Gina Murray with Seacoast Real Estate Group, and today we're going to be touring the garden of last year's Nicest Side Garden. This is the home of Helen and Steve Honan at 965 Shirley Street. This is Helen and this is Steve, and there's so many wonderful things to see. We'll let them tell you about it.
Well, we're very glad to be winners of the Seacoast Garden contest, and from last year, and let's show you around the house and show you what we did this year. This is a plant that we made up this year out of an old gutter, and Helen put some flowers in there. It come out pretty nice.
It sure does. Very different.
Well, this is the side of the house that we won the prize with. It's pretty much the same as it was last year. We have some hanging plants, some what do you call this? The hanging geraniums and licorice plant. And some vinca. And we have some roses that have already gone by. And the morning glories that they're starting to come along now. Usually this time of year they're all the way up the top, but they're a little stunted this year. And we have a new bird bath. Was it here last year?
I think so. The new sign.
The new sign, yes. We have new birds.
Now this is beautiful. What is it
This is a clematis that we got a lot of raves about last year.
Right.
And it seems that we get another good year out of it this year.
How long do they stay in bloom?
This will stay in bloom probably to the end of August anyways.
Wonderful.
And we get a good 3 or 4 months out of it. We've added a white one in here, but it probably won't bloom this year. And hopefully next year we'll have another color in there.
Now, one of the unique things about your garden is all the accessories that we see along.
Helen and I we pick up different things around. We go to barn sales and antique shops when we go away on vacation, and we don't buy expensive things, but odd and unique things that other people threw away.
Okay.
This is the wheelbarrow that Helen made up.
And this year we have just the purple and white petunias and argyrium.
That's Dusty Miller.
It's a lacy variety of Dusty Miller. And just the geraniums and blue scavola and some Dusty Miller here and alyssum. And different types of petunias.
Now, all these plants need full sun?
Well, these do well in full sun, and they'll bloom all summer. And they're all annuals.
Okay, and how often do you water?
If it's real hot, I water every day because the containers tend to dry out more than flowers that are planted in the ground.
Okay, great. Now, what's this over here? These purple plants?
Salvia?
These are purple salvia. And we had some poppies in here that have gone by. this is lantana and a rose bush, pink rose.
You want to talk about this reseeding?
And we have this, this here is Datura. It was a big plant that reseeded from last year. And we didn't, I saved seeds, but I didn't plant them, but it seemed to have reseeded itself. And then these different rocks, and this is a peace rose. This was, we had a dozen flowers last week on here, but one left for you for the show.
Now, is that a rose?
No, this is a double ruffled hollyhock.
Oh.
And we have geranium, ivy geranium, and Louis the Frog.
Louis the Frog, okay. Isn't it beautiful? Oh, great color.
Now this is a variety of plants, some dahlias, and let's see, we had some irises here, and this is a cinder block from an old that we just put some, I don't know, what are these? Lobelia and petunia, and the purple flower.
Great.
This is a new carpet.
And we have a new carpet rose here that seems to be doing well.
Wonderful.
And this is the flagpole, and I just repainted it this year. And we have an anchor and an old cleat, some marigolds.
And how long will the marigolds stay in bloom?
They'll, as long as you keep picking them, they'll be blooming all summer long.
Is that right? Wonderful. Okay.
Picking off the dead flowers. Now these have gone by here, but we had some, this is Jacob's Ladder.
Sweet William.
We had some Sweet William and little irises here that they were beautiful, the red and purple. This is Liatris here, and it's in full bloom now.
And the colors.
Isn't that nice? And the Coreopsis. And this is called Bee Balm. This attracts a lot of bumblebees. And this is Coreopsis here, and this comes up every year. We have 2 or 3 bunches of it here, and it seems to be doing good. 2 or 3 years we've had it in here. And a little lobster whirligig. And we have some dianthus, and this is verbena. And the tobacco plant, nicotina. This is a new hydrangea that we got. I put it in last fall. It really came in stunningly.
Now, why is that a little different color, right?
We thought it was going to be a blue one, actually, and so they changed the colors. You can add, I think, lime, and it'll make a more whitish color. Mare acid, which is an acid-type fertilizer, would probably make it more blue. Then we have some nicotina, and I don't know what this white stuff is, but it's growing all over the place.
Wonderful.
Now we have, this is our containers here on the front porch. Some Lobelia, geraniums, vinca, and pink petunias.
Now, the petunias like a lot of sun.
Petunias like a lot of sun, and you have to keep them picked all the time, so they'll keep reblooming.
Okay, great. Now, what is this right here? This is clever.
This is some lobster boxes, bait boxes we probably call them, in St. Francis of Assisi with some
Blessings.
some argyritum and geraniums, pink geraniums, and white geraniums with the variegated leaf, and petunias. We did the other side of the house this spring. Helen designed it, and I think I'll turn the microphone over to her.
Okay.
Okay. This is an idea that I had to kind of clean up some an old weedy area that's kind of like an alleyway, and I had an idea to put in a stone walkway.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. And so we.
And this is a new addition, I see.
Right. The posts actually came from my family home, and I had wanted to get a gate that I actually ended up buying in Brimfield, but I wanted to get a gate that was very open and didn't take away from the sunlight, because this side of the house it tends to be more shady, and also so that you could, see down the alleyway, and so we can go along inside.
Okay. This is beautiful. Now this is a new addition here, this walkway. These rocks, what type of rocks are these?
This is called blue water-worn stone, and we got it up on Route 1 at New England Sand and Stone, and we just went up there and picked out what we liked. And
you dug this yourself, I understand. So it's not that difficult to place, is it?
It really isn't. It took me, a couple of hours to dig it, and then as far as placing the stones, Steve left that up to me, and then he went along behind me, and because the depth of each stone is different, they can vary from an inch to maybe 4 inches. And he added the stone dust as needed and placed them in. And they don't have to be perfect. I mean, it kind of varies and adds a little more character to it.
Right.
And then as far as the sides, we added shade-loving plants, as the hostas and the bleeding hearts, and then the impatiens naturally add all the color.
Okay.
And so we do have quite a few perennials. We just put in some ivy and vinca to kind of fill in. Of course, I was trying to get away with not putting any mulch in so that things could reseed, but just to help with the weeds for the first year especially, we did have to mulch.
Okay. Now, how often do you water this side of the yard?
Oh, about every day in the summertime,
okay.
every day or every other day. And Steve did put in soaker hoses, so that does help.
Now, do you use fertilizer also?
Oh,
here?
yes.
What do you use?
We always use the Miracle Grow.
Okay, always Miracle Grow. Okay, great.
Yeah. This area, we just have a couple of perennial plants that we put in this year. The lamium, there's white Nancy, and then the pink coral shells. And they have happened to, we just put them in the spring, as I said, because we did this walkway in May, so everything is just new. This was a stump from a tree that Steve cut down a couple of years ago, and we just added the little shell, the cement shell bird bath.
Oh, this is nice.
And for our anniversary gift this year, Steve got me this arbor and put it together. And
beautiful.
We haven't decided what we're going to put up here as yet for to climb, maybe a climbing rose or something.
So this is our little rock garden. We have different. We have a little white bird here and some different collection of some carved stone from old buildings in Boston that we found out in the old Spectacle Island. We have some yarrow, some thistle here that's about ready to bloom, and I think this is called bluebell, the blue flower. Then we have some verbena, and this is going to be a a chrysanthemum. Probably bloom in another month or so. And I don't know what these are, some kind of English daisy, and some pansies.
Okay, now what do you have tied up over here?
This here is something my brother Richie gave me, and I keep forgetting the name of it.
Okay. Well, we'll ask Richie.
But this is our, we got this up in Maine, the little planter here on the wall, and the guy told me it was a Pakistani kitchen gadget holder.
Is that right?
And,
it's different.
And so he says it's from the late 19th century, and it seems to fit really, really well in there. We also have a gazing ball here that you can see your reflection in, and we got that from my brother Richard. Now we have a nice backdrop here. I think this is I think it's English ivy, but I'm not quite sure.
Very large leaves. Look at them.
They are quite large.
Yeah, they're different. And again, here's our collection that makes your garden very unique. And this right here is driftwood. Isn't that driftwood that you...
This is driftwood. This is, it looks like reindeer antlers. Helen really likes that.
And don't you have a new birdhouse collection as well?
We do have quite a few birdhouses that we've been collecting around. There's some over here with the potted plants here on the deck. And then we have a new, this here is a cow waterer. And the cow would push his nose down here, and it would refill it up with fresh water.
Interesting.
And then we have different collections of lobster pots, lobster buoys. This here is a feeder for say a little pony in a barn. They put the feed in here, and we stuck a few plants, some petunias and verbelia. And
now, what about your containers on your deck here?
That's just a collection of cinder blocks and different pieces of wood we found around the, either searching through the trash in front of your house or...
Now, this is a very hardy plant. What is...
This is a geranium. It's probably 3 or 4 years we've had this same geranium.
Mm-hmm. And how do you keep it?
We pull them out in the fall, put them in a plastic bag, and you can put it down a cool cellar, and take them out, repot them in March, maybe the middle of March, and
In the house.
in the house, and keep it in until the frost has gone by.
Where did you find it?
No, we found this up in Maine. They had they were selling one summer. We saw a whole lot of them up there. Somebody was bringing them in and selling them, so we picked one of those up. And then we have sundial, an old soapstone sink, I think that is, with some petunias, verbelia, and white and purple verbelia, and some of our, this is more verbena.
Okay, now,
And this is part of our birdhouse collection.
okay, what does that sign say?
It says, "We'll rent for a song."
That is wonderful. Steve, I wanted to ask you, how much time do you spend a week? How many hours would you say?
Actually, we put in a lot of time. We don't put a lot of time in during the week because we work a lot, but the weekends we put in 2 full days. We probably started at the end of March working on the other side, putting in the garden and the stonework on the other side. And so we've been working every weekend up until here we are in the middle of July. And it's a lot of work, but we enjoy doing it.
You can tell. And your hobby also is collecting these wonderful pieces.
Yes, we have trouble putting them away in the wintertime, to tell you the truth. Well, my brother Richie found this. This is a wooden box he found floating out in back of his house. And actually, if you look at it, it's the top drawer of a steamer trunk. And it has the handles here is very lightweight, and it has a little hole over here for the parasol. So the woman could probably tuck a parasol in there, and when she was going off to Europe.
Wonderful. So you can make anything.
You can make, if you look around and your little imagination, you can do something with a little of everything.
Wonderful. Thank you. On behalf of Seacoast, we want to thank you very much and CAT for taking us on a tour of your garden. I just think it's fascinating, and it really shows a lot of your personality, and a lot of love and time has gone into this garden. We want to thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming by.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Dan Ashton, and I'm from the Seacoast Real Estate Group, and I'm here this morning with my friends and neighbors, Paul and Lori Barish, and this is Laura and Fluffy. And they're going to show us their window boxes, which have been entered in our Winthrop's Nicest Gardens contest. Would you like to take a look? Should we get up and take a look?
The window box? Obviously, we've got a few marigolds in here, pretty common.
Lobelia.
Lobelia, thank you. And some ivy, very simple. And what's really odd that everybody enjoys these so much is I never touched a flower until 4 years ago. And we kind of just do whatever we like and have fun with them, and the neighbors really seem to enjoy them.
So you're very new to gardening then, huh?
Very, very new to gardening, yes. And I'm just glad that everybody enjoys them. We do.
Well, this is really wonderful because as you drive up the street, it's just a splash of color and
It adds a little character, doesn't it?
a delightful presentation. Very nice.
Those are called marigolds, honey, the yellow ones.
Marigolds, and this is Vinca. Vinca, which trails down below.
Good, Dan. Good.
Very good. Well, there you go. And over here we have more of the same.
More of the same.
Yeah. How difficult are these to take care of?
They require a lot of water.
Yeah,
a lot of water. And every once in a while you got to take the dead buds off, which you can probably see a few of right now, unfortunately. But yeah, just a lot of water. They like a lot of sunshine. These two don't get quite as much sun as these do. So they're always kind of at different rates of growth. But they're just, the house looks naked without them.
Sure. And marigolds will bloom well into the fall, so you have color into the, almost to Thanksgiving, really.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Great.
And that's when we put the cabbages in. Remember the cabbages?
Oh, right.
The flowering kale, the purple flowering kale that go in the fall.
Maybe we can come back and take a picture of those.
I hope you do. Everybody really seems to. One lady said to me, "Why are you growing your vegetable gardens in your window boxes?"
Thanksgiving dinner.
That's right. That's right. So we're just glad to enjoy them.
Well, thanks very much for letting us come by and take a look at your garden, and we'll be looking forward to seeing it develop throughout the summer. Again, thanks, Laura, Lori, and Paul Barish.
Hi, I'm Rose Pasillo from Seacoast Real Estate, Winthrop's Nicest Gardens, and with me is Ann Warren, and we have 49 Pico Ave. She does a lot of work, and she's very proud of her garden as a senior citizen, and maybe you could help us find out what everything is.
Well, this is a nectarine tree that's a seedling. I cut down about 9 2 or 3 years ago because I wanted to grow my tomato plants and they were shading my area. So, but they keep coming up, and you know, I never put them in. The birds came, and I never put a nectarine tree in. And so
from the seeds, do you think?
I don't know how it came, but it did. And this was about 12 years ago, and I've been having them since. The only thing is some years the wind blows the fruit off. And that breaks my heart before they, yeah. Those are nectarine trees, see right there?
Right.
And these didn't put them there. I had yellow ones that were hybrids, but they choked them out.
And took right over.
Yeah, they took over.
Well,
like
they're
a
very
weed.
pretty, though.
Yeah, well, you know.
And what kind of flower? These are rose
These
bushes,
are wild roses that I put in. My sister-in-law gave them to me as a seedling 30 years ago, and this is the result. I've been here 35 years.
Long time.
And I have a hard time pulling out the weeds.
Well,
They're always so,
I think everyone has that one.
Town helped me out, you know. About a month ago, they came and they cut a lot of the weeds out.
Cut it back. Now, you were saying over behind here that you make
elderberry shrub.
Elderberry.
Well, I have a couple more. That's an elderberry shrub, the white flower that turns into a berry, and I make jelly out of it. That's my nectarine tree.
And you get nectarines?
Yes, I did. I
them,
had,
or-
well, I had them as big as baseball.
Wow.
Baseballs one year, and all my neighbors got a stack on their porch.
Oh.
I love to share.
Well, they
my
must love you.
and my nectarine trees.
So everybody's waiting for your tomatoes to come
Oh
up.
yes, I have a whole slew of friends in Salem, the daycare center that I go to. They always wait for my fresh tomatoes.
Nice.
And I put in my pepper plants.
Oh, what kind of peppers?
Well,
The
there are
green
two
one?
kinds. I
Oh.
have the heavy green, what do you call them, California wonders, and these are the Italian peppers.
You have beautiful roses.
Yeah.
I love the color.
I'm going to cut them back, you know, so that
Wow, there's
they'll
so
grow
many.
again.
Sure.
You know, they
Like a big blaze.
I have a. Now these are a weed, but aren't they pretty?
Yeah.
These
They're
pretty?
beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
it's a,
And there's another elderberry shrub
right.
there.
You see the florists a lot of time with them, putting them in bouquets.
I have a lot of geranium plants that bring out the color. So this is
Nice
it.
garden. You do a lot of work, a lot of different things.
It's a lot of work, but you know, you have to like it and you don't mind the work.
Well, you have a great spot here between your ocean and your gardens.
Oh, I know.
You're doing
when I
great.
sit on my porch, I feel the breeze come in, and I feel as though I'm in a garden. And then the sun, the wind comes from the ocean. I feel I'm on the beach, so I get both sides.
Yeah.
The beach
It's a great
and the.
spot.
It is.
It's a
I'm
great
very
spot.
fortunate.
You are. You are. A lot of people drive by this house and wonder who's in there gardening.
Oh, I had to go through a lot of grief because of the townspeople didn't like the idea. I bought this property years ago. I was an outsider, and they wanted to know how in the world I knew that this house was on sale. It was on the market for a year. No one was interested, and then I bought it.
Yeah.
And so for
See,
a
he
long
who
time.
hesitates loses, right?
What?
He who hesitates loses.
Yeah, well, you know, they
and you
kept
won.
they kept asking me, how did I know the house was for sale? Because I wasn't in Winthrop. I wasn't a Winthropite. I was a Bostonian. See, I'm an artist, and I had my studio on Newbury Street for about 25 years. And when I moved here, I didn't know a soul. I had one friend, and she was the one that helped me get this house. She knew with the real estate, Mr. Edwards.
No, it was before my time.
Yeah, well, of
I've been
course,
doing it for 8 years, but
35 years. And
Are
I
you
have
still
to give it
painting?
up. No.
No. What did you like? Did you paint flowers or what? Was your
Portraits.
portraits? Oh, nice.
I was, well,
A lot of work too. See, you like the hard things.
well, you know, when you get older, you drop a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, you went into the gardens though, and that shows
If
that.
my house was in good shape, I'd show you a painting that I did of this area with a seagull in the foreground, but I'm too ashamed of it. See, I do all my work outside.
Oh, that's okay.
My house is a mess. Oh, maybe you'd like to know that I was a member of the Victory Garden for 25 years in Boston. That's where I learned a lot of my gardening from the senior citizens then. Now I'm a senior citizen.
Oh, see? And maybe some
Yeah.
people can learn how to do things
Well,
from you.
Well,
Seeing
I
these
don't know, it's a
beautiful
lot
things.
of hard work. You have to really love gardening, and people don't like to work. They want everything free and easy. Yeah.
A lot of people
That's,
do, you're
that's
right.
true. It's true today. No one wants to work. They want everything laid out for them. I used to use Bolvang, but I can't get Bolvang, it seems to me, but I do use cow manure and peat humus.
Oh.
Yeah. And one year I used a lot of ashes from my fireplace, and that's very good for the plants.
I've
Very
heard that
good.
before, too.
It's very good. But I don't use my fireplace anymore, so.
So you don't have those ashes,
No.
but you have the cow manure.
But I do. I get cow manure every year, and I use a lot of that. And then superphosphate for the flowers to come out. It's very good.
Well, the roses seem to be really enjoying whatever
Yeah,
you're doing
yeah.
for fertilizing.
Yeah.
They're quite beautiful.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing your garden with us.
Thank you for
We appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Jan Stevens from Seacoast Real Estate. We're here to view Marianne Borowski's garden at 47 Bartlett Parkway. Marianne, do you want to kind of tell us what prompted you to start your garden? And we can kind of walk and wander through. Marianne's a new resident. She's only been in Winthrop 5 years and started from scratch with her garden. So we'll look at her beautiful flowers. Okay? Here you go.
I just love to do gardening, and I've been doing it here for the full 5 years, although I've been doing one little corner at a time. It's taken a while to get it all going. But all this starts really from my childhood. My father was an avid gardener, mostly vegetable garden. He comes from the farm, and vegetables were important. So it was mostly vegetable gardening, so when he comes up here and sees all my flowers, he's not quite as happy I'm spending time on flowers, and most of them you can't eat, although I need to probably find some you can, and then maybe he would feel better about it. But I've got a variety of different things. I try to have something blooming all the time. Everything always needs some weeding, and everything needs attention, but my favorite thing to do is have something blooming all the time, something I can look out of the windows and see blooming. It makes me feel good, and I like all the colors. So show you what I've got. In the front yard here, I've just put in some petunias and Dusty Miller. It's very hot and dry in the front of the house here, and I think even there's a little salt spray off the ocean. So it's been hard to get things to grow, but it seems like the petunias tend to survive in the sun quite well. So I've been pretty happy with them. I do have to kind of keep cutting off all of the dead blossoms, and then they keep blooming well, so that works. This Dusty Miller here comes back every year. Evidently, with the sun in the winter, it doesn't freeze as hard or whatever, but I just trimmed it back in the fall, and it came up in the spring, so it's almost like a perennial. It was pretty cold and miserable last winter, and they still seem to survive, so it's kind of a nice, cheap way to keep some things growing around the yard.
And they look really hardy, too.
They really do work quite well in this kind of dry, dusty, weedy environment. Okay.
All right. So we'll let her tell you what prompted her to do a rose garden in this particular area of her garden.
Okay, this is just, again, kind of a hot, dry, salty corner of the garden, and these are Betty Pryor roses, and I copied the idea from neighbors who have a lot of these roses, and they really bloom very well all summer. This is, of course, since we're filming it, is the time where they're blooming the least, but they really cover with pink, and they bloom right into the fall. I've had a bouquet of flowers on the table from these bushes in September and October, so they've been great, and they're disease resistant. They were pretty pink, kind of a wild rose. So I think they handle the bad situation a little better than the fancier roses.
And what did you plant over on this side? Over here
well, this corner,
new ground cover.
This is great ground cover because it's strawberries, and they happen to survive. They come up every year. I kind of transplant them every once in a while to move them around a little bit, but I get enough strawberries out of them from my cereal in the morning and for treats and things.
So you had a good supply this
spring.
Good. Okay. We're going to go over to the back side of the house and see Marianne's rear garden. We're in Marianne's rear garden now, which she has tucked away so nicely. And as you can see, it's a beautiful collection of various flowers. Her clematis is in bloom, and I see her impatience, and Marianne's going to kind of walk us through and tell us what she has here.
Okay, all right, I have fences here from the neighbors, and that actually provides kind of a nice backdrop for a lot of plants, the climbing plants. I like the clematis, and it climbs really well, so I've got a number of those on the fence, and I've got a climbing rose, too, that I've tried to grow on the fence. with not as much luck on that solid fence, but with this brand new fence here, I'm planning to put climbing roses on here, and they have all these new types now that have nice smell and are really hardy, so I'm kind of looking forward to putting them in there. So just take a look at some of the things that are blooming over in this corner. I tend not to have a lot of time for the garden, so I've liked to put in these perennial kind of plants. They come up every year. They're really fun to have because even when there's some snow left on the ground, these plants are starting to come up once the sun starts to hit them. This viney thing here all over the top of the daylilies is another clematis vine that I took down off of the fence while the new fence was going in, and I've got to put it back up there. This one is really vigorous. You can see it's really kind of ruining this corner of the garden. I need to get it up there quickly, but it blooms in the fall and it smells really nice, so that's kind of fun.
What's down in here?
The remains of columbine. So all that's left here are the seed pods, and I let them stay, and you can shake them down, and all the new plants come. Something like this here is not a weed; it's a small columbine, and I'm just going to transplant them out and make more columbine because it comes up again every year all by itself. They're pretty purple and white, and they tend toward the reds and pinks and yellows too. There's such a variety, so they're kind of fun. And they're now over with. I'll let the seeds seed themselves for next year.
So you just let them fall off and they just do that?
Yep. And if you want some seeds, you just grab a handful. They're all dried and ready for planting.
This is really pretty.
That's called a balloon flower, and I guess because just before it opens up, it looks like a solid balloon here, an air-filled balloon, and then it pops open and is a very pretty star-shaped flower. This again comes up by itself every year, and they come. I've seen them in purple, and this particular one is white. And in the depths of all of this are some roses. Here's some new roses that need to be planted. Some old columbines. There's a lot of old things here, things that have gone past, but I try to get something that's blooming all the time. So right now we look at the daylilies and we don't look at the dried up old flowers that are now past.
Well, it gives you texture and depth anyway. What is this over here?
I don't remember the name of this, actually, but it has a small blue flower, and it grows by itself every year, and it's taking over. I need to thin it out. With perennials, they will do this, and you can go in with a shovel and move them somewhere else, and that definitely needs to go. That's been there about 3 or 4 years, and it's choking out everything in that region. So I have a few experimental things, too. I throw some seeds down, and there's a few daylily oriental lily things that I put in there just to see if they come up, and sure enough some of them are coming up, and I'll move them to a more appropriate place some other time. I bought some new plants too. That's a butterfly bush there. I was anxious to get a hold of them because they attract butterflies, and I've seen a lot of butterflies in Winthrop, the yellow swallowtails and everything, so I thought it might be nice to have them. I guess they attract hummingbirds too. That would be fun.
Flowers that you buy just to attract the hummingbirds.
Yeah.
I saw that at the garden show. And you have your own compost?
Compost, that's for all the yard waste and the carrot peels and things, and it's really good. I dig out the dirt from there. This property didn't have the best quality dirt. I think it used to be in the Cottage Park Hotel area, and I think the dirt is old and nothing really that good. So by having the compost heap, it really helps to get some good quality dirt in there to get these plants going. So this region here is blooming nicely with the daylilies here. They're really fun flowers. They come up again by themselves every year, and they're really bright and colorful, and you can cut one and stick it in a vase, and it looks really pretty for a day or two. And this year, one of my new things to try is this lupine. These interesting plants here, they have beautiful leaves, and they're just babies. I don't think they'll bloom this year, but I just thought I'd stick them in and get them started and see how they go. I have not yet seen any problem with the beetles, slimy beetles or something that have been eating these plants in different parts of Massachusetts. I haven't seen them in Winthrop yet, at least on this plant, and I'm glad for that. These are just gorgeous, beautiful smelling, elegant flowers that come up every year. They survive beautifully in Winthrop so far. they're hard to get because of this lily beetle problem. I don't know what the current status is, but I tried to buy some more because I really liked it. I only have one. I wanted to buy another, but I couldn't get it because they weren't selling it because of the beetle problem. So this is another clematis. It's just going through its peak right now. There's a lot of flowers falling off of it. I think they call it Giacomani, the bright purple one. It's about a 4-year-old plant. I love it. It's just always prolific with flowers like this. And I'm trying to figure out whether I want it to, I don't know whether it's going to grow up to the roof or not of the garage, but it even makes good cut flowers. I make little bouquets out of it, and they look nice in a vase. And it's just a fun plant to have. It comes up again by itself every year, right from the bottom. It seems to survive in that spot pretty well.
Do you give it anything to make it look so hardy?
Oh, I do fertilize. I do use, Miracle Grow, and I have the compost, so I'll put that down. And I do water, try and keep some water on it. This year has been fairly easy on the watering because we've had some rain. It hasn't been viciously hot, except today and the last couple of days.
I
need to water tonight. I've saved one little area right in here for some tomatoes. Yeah,
tomatoes,
gotta have tomatoes. I mean, real tomatoes from the garden, not that orange hard things that you buy in the store. So I've got a few of those going, and there's little ping pong ball size ones at this point. And I'm trying to put the marigolds in because that's supposed to help to keep the bugs away. So and it's got some basil and parsley mixed in for a good spaghetti sauce. So it's later on in the summer.
I see one thing that interests me. It's over in the other side of the garden.
Okay.
And it's sort of that silver-leafed, looks like a hosta.
It's a hosta.
It is.
Yeah, it's a hosta.
Variegation. I've never seen one like that.
It's shady. And I've read that the hostas are good in the shade, and they actually do bloom, and there's some spikes coming up. And having that one there on the left, I don't remember the real name of it, but with the white on it, kind of brightens up this darker corner of the garden. I got the 3 different types because they had different color leaves. This one with the white, and that one's got more of a blue color, and the other one is more solid green, and they all do really well in this spot. Behind it, the more lacy looking leaves, that's a bleeding heart. And I just love that plant because it reminds me of my grandmother's garden. She always had bleeding hearts by her garden back door. So, and that blooms beautifully in the spring, and then it kind of keeps the nice lacy foliage for a while afterward. Now, under to the left there, you see the bucket, there's some water dripping in it. I keep that under the drain pipe, and I use that water to water my houseplants. So that's rainwater to water the houseplants, and I'll dump the bucket too in the garden here. And I think that that's a really good way of getting houseplants to behave really well, because I've had really good luck with a lot of my houseplants, the Christmas cactus and some orchids and different types of flowers. But my secret, and I'm giving it out now, is rainwater. I don't know whether it has something to do with the jet fuel in it or what, but I just have a bucket out there all year round, and if it's not frozen solid, I use it on my houseplants too. So, good. And during the winter, or during the summer, I try to bring as many of the houseplants out as possible, and I'm slowly bringing them. What I've got here is there's a little bit of a nursery here. I've got a nice ivy in the house, and I just clipped it. I started some new cuttings in there, so they're just kind of struggling along. But here I've got a Cattleya orchid. It's got 4 buds about to open up over the next week or so. So I'm anxious to see that. This one just finished blooming. It had a long spike, but again, I'm taking them, I'm putting them outside. This is kind of a nice shady spot. This is a camellia bonsai, which bloomed a couple times. It was a gift, and it actually is behaving itself quite well. They say it likes to be outside, so I see some new growth on it. And here's a hibiscus, and this is I just love this plant when it blooms. It's just wonderful. This scraggly mess here is a cymbidium orchid. If anyone likes orchids and has a cool house, because I have one room in my house that's kind of probably 50 or 55 degrees. They're mountain orchids, I guess, and they like it cool. It's an ugly as heck plant. It takes up a lot of space, but it had 140 blossoms on it this winter. Wow. And it's worth it to have this, but it likes the cold nights, it likes the cool, and it's perfect in that room. I've almost thrown this plant out many times because it's just ugly and enormous, but when it puts out that kind of show, I can't do it. So there it is. Here's another one. So I also put my Christmas cactus out here on the wall. This is a good wall. I've got more to bring out. I left a big spot for another one. And these bloom. The thing that's so much fun is that at the end of the season, when you're trying to get something blooming all the time, and the end of the season comes, the frost comes, and you kind of feel like your garden is over. Then all the houseplants and the Christmas cactus start, and by Thanksgiving, actually I have one that starts on Halloween. A Halloween cactus starts blooming at Halloween, and then they'll continue to go through the winter. So there's always something blooming around.
You don't have to force bloom them. You just
No, I don't. I think something, maybe just having them outside. I bring them in before it gets too cold, maybe in early October. You kind of have to be careful of the frost. And I think maybe that's just enough of a shock for them to go inside. But I never put them in the closet or anything, and they just bloom like crazy. I think it's the rainwater.
Rainwater. There you go. You got the secret now, rainwater. Have everybody putting barrels out.
That's
well,
right.
We thank you for taking us through your garden, and I'm sure that we'll see you next year again.
With less weeds, hopefully.
With less weeds. Thank you.
Okay.
We're filming some of Winthrop's nicest gardens, and today we're at the home of Cheryl Reimer at 45 Nahant Avenue. She has a beautiful garden, but the thing that is most spectacular right now is her roses, so that's what we're here to look at today. Going up against the side of the house, Cheryl has some spectacular pink roses. How old are those, Cheryl? Do you have any idea?
Well, I'm not sure how old they are, but the house is about 75 years old, and it had always been in one family until I purchased the house 6 years ago. So I think that they're probably of a pretty ancient vintage. They're a very old-fashioned rose. They have a lot of petals, rose petals, and they have a wonderful scent.
So at the end of the season, Cheryl, do you cut your roses back?
Usually I don't cut them back at the end of the season, but this year I will because I'm having the house painted in September. 5 years ago I cut them back the last time I had the house painted, and it took them about 2 years to grow back to what you see now. So they don't seem to mind getting cut back at all.
They definitely don't. They're absolutely gorgeous. I love the way that they just come up by your doorway like that.
It's really quite special going into the entryway because the roses are all pressed up along one side of the glass entry. And it's very special. It's a very special property, and I feel quite fortunate to have it.
These are spectacular roses, Cheryl, that you have lining your driveway. What are these called?
Well, these are Duddy Priors, and they seem to be particularly hardy in a salt air environment. And they're I'm happy to say, pretty low maintenance. I fertilize them once a year with some ortho product that keeps the Japanese beetles off of them. And I prune them back after they've bloomed now and all the blossoms have died. Sometime in late July, I'll trim them back to about 12 inches. And then if everything goes according to schedule, we should have another blooming like this in September.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you get 2 per season then.
That's right.
And
that's right.
How far down do you prune them? Would you take off this much?
I would actually prune them back to about this high.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I see.
So
quite a bit.
Quite a bit, and they don't seem to mind it at all. And again, I think these have been here quite a long time. And they're very, very hardy. Seem to go through the winter with no problem. I do make sure that in the fall, after the second blooming, I don't prune them again until the spring. I know some people do prune them early enough that the ends will sort of die back before the cold weather comes. Somehow I just never seem to have the time to do it, so I wait until the spring, and then I prune them.
Being here by the ocean, too, you have such severe weather that maybe it's better to not prune something too close.
Well, this is definitely past its prime. Had you come a week ago, it had about 60 blossoms on it. But the rain in the last couple of days has sort of done it in. Again, this is a very old rose. I'm not sure if you can actually see the canes on it. You can see the canes in here. This particular cane is a good 3 inches. around.
It's almost like a tree.
It really is, and I'm very fortunate. You know, I have to say that most of my rose ability I can attribute to luck. But I do prune this one back, and again I'll prune it in the late July, and it usually will flower again before the end of the summer. And I don't know the name of this, but I think of it as Helen's Rose, because Helen Black was the woman who owned this house and lived here for years. Her parents had built the house, and I bought the property after she passed away. And I think she really had much more of a green thumb than I do, so I always think of this as sort of her special rose.
So that's a tribute to Helen. That's very nice. Can you tell us a little bit about this, Cheryl?
Well, I think much to the delight of all the cats in the neighborhood, this is catnip, and I usually have a good early morning catnip break out here. But they seem to enjoy it, and they certainly don't bother me, and adds a little bit of a different dimension to the yard instead of just having plain grass.
And what's in the center of
The center is yarrow, which has a relatively small yellow flower. As I said, don't do much fertilizing, but I know that in the past a lot of the families who had lived on this street for quite a while used seaweed to fertilize their flowers in their gardens, and they would go down to the beach and collect that sort of thin black seaweed and dry it out, and then just mix a handful of it at the base of each plant. And maybe that's what attributes the size of all these plants.
Hello, I'm Peggy Gilbert from Seacoast Real Estate. I'm here on 136 Cottage Park Road with Sheila Cox and her dad, Ed. And they have a fantastic garden here, and they're going to show us their garden, and you're going to show us about the arbor that you built.
What can I say about it?
That is how beautiful it is.
Well, a lot of the features that we have in the garden are things that my father has built, and I think it really adds a lot of interest to it. He's very clever and is able to look at pictures and books and be able to design it and then make the final object. And it really has added the final touch, I think, beyond just the flowers.
Okay.
Oh, I'm going to send you on a long vacation.
All right. So should we start out, do you want to start out in the front or the back?
Well, maybe we could start right here.
Okay.
This at one time had been flowers, but it gets the most sun, so this is where I put the vegetables. When I first started gardening, I started mainly with vegetables, but there were a lot of problems, and I really loved flowers, so I've reduced it to just tomatoes and peppers and basil with the flowers in the front just as an edging. And this was really the best place for it because this gets sun all day long.
Yeah, they look nice and healthy.
Yeah, they seem to be doing very well. And then as we go around, the other areas are all either perennial gardens or beds of annuals, and then on the side there's a shade garden.
Okay. So we're right here on the corner before we enter the yard.
And this was really the area that I first started in. This is probably the oldest area in the garden. I had started with a perennial bed, and most of these things will flower a little bit later. There are asters and Rudbeckia, black-eyed Susan, and Boltonia, and the lilies are just starting to come in. The roses are a little bit past. That's a climbing rose called Golden Showers, which will flower again as the season goes on.
What color is that?
It's yellow.
Oh, nice.
Yes. And then I do a lot of containers.
Oh, yeah.
And,
this is nice for people who are in condominiums, too.
Yes, yes.
Who,
if you have a restricted space. And also, this is where I put annuals so that there's color all of the time.
Right.
I also do these hanging baskets, which are wire. It's a wire frame that you line with moss, and you can plant the flowers right in the sides and on the bottom and around the top. So in about a month or so, this will just be all flowers. You won't even be able to see the framework of the basket.
And these look very nice too.
That's bacopa and marigolds. I changed what I put there. Last year I had parsley and thyme, but I missed the color, so I wanted to have some flowers. I usually go to the nursery with a plan, but when I saw
What's the name of that now?
Bacopa.
Oh.
It's usually used, I think, as a house plant, and it just looks so nice, and it didn't require much water. That dries out very quickly.
Yeah.
So I thought that I would try it this year, and it seems to be working out well.
It looks nice hanging there, nice and airy.
Yes, yes. And then the trellis is something that my father built from a book. And then we added the climbing roses, which are a variety called New Dawn.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
One on either side. And it really, when it first blossoms in June, it's just covered with a mass of these pink blossoms.
Now, does that bloom all summer, or a few big blooms?
It will continue blooming maybe for another 3 or 4 weeks. And then late into July, it's finished. In some of the books, it does say it goes through the season, but I've never had that happen. But it's a longer season than some of the others.
Okay.
You also have the clematis in there, Sheila.
Yes, yes, there's a clematis on the other side that blossomed. It's unfortunately past now, but it has huge white blossoms that's done very well. And then we can come into the backyard.
All right.
Well, again, this is a lot of my father's handiwork. We had put in several years ago this herb bed. There are a lot of herbs, but there are flowers too. These are evening primrose. They blossom for a day and then die, and then
I had one of those in my yard, and it didn't come back. Are they supposed to come back?
Those come back every year.
Oh, maybe they need a lot of sun, do they?
Yes, I think they do.
They do.
And then lavender. The lavender is blooming very nicely. We've got some strawberries, and then the usual herbs. There's rosemary and some parsley, tarragon, oregano.
Now, are the strawberries hard to grow?
These are alpine strawberries.
They look
so
good.
they're very tiny, and they don't get runners, so they stay confined in one spot, and those have come back for several years.
And you just get one a year, one blooming?
No, they'll blossom throughout the season. There'll be fruit throughout the season.
Oh, that's
not
great.
a lot, but enough for breakfast in the morning.
Nice. Okay.
Well, a lot of the things in here, because they're herbs, don't really have flowers, so I wanted to add a little color.
I see.
And I put in the corners nasturtiums. I planted these from seeds, and these are very easy to grow.
All right.
And then in the container, there's also a nasturtium at the top, and what I'm hoping is that it will cascade over and blend with the marigolds.
Yeah, that's like an orange yellow color.
Yes, yes. Originally, I had great plans, and everything was very balanced, and everything was symmetrical, and the colors were all planned out. And as the years have gone by and things have died, it's become a little bit more haphazard, but nature has a way of blending everything together. Everybody has kind of contributed. My father's done a lot of the building. I do the planting. My brother was very excited because he got the ball over, the reflecting ball over on the side. And there was kind of an empty spot there, and it wasn't big enough for a plant, so that really added
That's a good idea.
nice touch.
People can pick up some ideas from you.